My wife posted a selfie with our kids and her work husband. The notification hit at 9:14 p.m. Her smile was wide, polished for the camera. My 2 children framed her face like ornaments of innocence. But it wasn't the kids that caught me, it was him. Standing close, his hand hovering just low enough to be denied, but high enough to be claimed. The caption read, "My real partner and lover." My chest hollowed. Not shattered, hollowed, as if something had been quietly scooped out of me without permission. I stared. The words cut clean, clinical. Real partner, lover. The knife slid in without hesitation. My fingers moved before my brain argued. One word, one bullet in the open. Congrats. No anger, no accusation. Just a scalpel-thin incision in the perfect image she thought she owned. By morning, the picture was gone, deleted, buried. But the silence it left behind wasn't hers to control anymore. HR buzzed her into the conference room. Him too. His wife already waiting. And me, calm, still, with nothing in my hands but the quiet certainty of what came next. The folder slid across the table. One page, one truth. And I watched the color drain from her face like water slipping down a cracked drain. Betrayal doesn't start loud, it seeps. A shift in laughter, a private message she tilts her screen to hide. A work trip where the hotel charges don't match her itinerary. I used to believe in coincidences. But suspicion, once planted, grows teeth. That caption wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a joke. It was confession, buried in plain sight. My children smiled in that photo, unaware. They clung to her arms, calling the man beside her uncle. They didn't know the lines had already blurred. That night I lay in bed beside her. She scrolled her phone, careful not to let the light fall my way. Her breathing was even, her body still. She thought I was asleep. But my eyes traced the ceiling, every crack in the plaster like veins feeding one inevitable truth. It wasn't about lust, it wasn't about sex, it was about identity. About her replacing me with someone else while I was still alive to watch. I didn't ask questions. Questions give them space to lie. Instead, I began to collect, quietly. Phone bills first. Late-night calls to numbers she claimed were work emergencies. The duration told me more than words ever could. 45 minutes. 57. Never under 10. Then the receipts. 2 dinners billed to her company card, both on nights she swore she was in training. I memorized the details, tucked them into mental drawers where they couldn't be erased. At home, I played my part. Smiled when she did, laughed when the children asked me to. My silence was a mask stitched carefully across my face. But inside, the tide pulled, a constant undertow dragging me deeper each day. I thought about the word lover. I thought about how casually she'd typed it, fingers pressing send without hesitation. Did she want me to see? Did she want me gone? The children were my compass. Their innocence kept my hands steady. This wasn't about rage. This was about precision. So I waited, and I built. The report arrived in a thin envelope. HR investigation, triggered by my anonymous submission of screenshots and dates. I hadn't needed to write a single accusation. The evidence spoke on its own. Travel records, overlapping hotel stays, security footage showing their late exits from conference rooms. Facts are merciless. They don't shout. They whisper. I read each page once, then again. My pulse never rose. My hands never shook. The storm had already passed. This was only the debris left behind. When I placed the envelope back inside the folder, I knew what came next. The confrontation wouldn't be mine alone. It would be theirs, hers, his, and the woman who shared his vows. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't plead. I would simply sit in the silence of 4 people and let the paper bleed for me. The conference room smelled of coffee and cheap carpet glue, neutral ground for a war of truth. She entered first, confusion flickering in her eyes when she saw me, then him, then his wife. HR slid the folder forward, opened it to one page, the caption, the photo, and beneath it, the collected evidence. No words from me, no accusations, just the sharp echo of silence pressing into her lungs until she gasped for air. Her eyes darted to mine, searching for anger, for rage, for something familiar. She found nothing. Just the emptiness she had carved into me returned like a mirror. His wife stared at him with a stillness that frightened even me. He reached out to her, but she pulled her hand back as if scorched. I spoke once. Congrats. The same word, same tone, but now it was a sentence, a verdict, a burial. I left the room first, not because I wanted to escape, but because I had already won. The truth had no rebuttal. It had no loophole. It simply sat there, undeniable, and crushed everything she thought she controlled. Outside, the morning light was soft, too soft for the violence of what had just unraveled. People walked the halls with coffee cups, laughing, alive in a world unbroken. I envied them nothing. She would return home eventually. She would try to explain, to justify, to salvage fragments from the fire she had started with her own hand. But I had already stepped away. My silence would be her echo chamber, her guilt her only companion. And me? I wasn't her husband anymore, not her partner, not her shadow. I was simply the man who watched her destroy herself and let her. The finality sat heavy but not painful, because sometimes the cleanest revenge isn't fire, it's absence. And as I walked away, one sentence closed the chapter in my mind, sharp and cold. She wanted a real partner. Now she has none.